VAWA applications and interviews that have to do with them. Immigration services have announced that some applicants for VAWA, that's the abused spouse petition, will be subject to an interview now. It was never like this before. There used to be an interview for a green card application, but now they are saying that certain applicants will be asked to come in for an interview and discuss their case. This is difficult because for victims of abuse, very often it's difficult to speak about it, to recall it, to relive it. It's basically re-traumatization in some instances, which is why it's such a crazy thing that's now, it's this crazy rule that's now being implemented. However, because it is in place, it is very important that your application for an abused spouse petition, your VAWA application, is very well prepared in hopes to avoid this unnecessary horrible interview. That means making sure that you have adequate documents showing that the marriage was in good faith. These are the things that are required for a VAWA petition. We'll just go over them again. That you had a good faith marriage, that the marriage unfortunately ended in abuse. You have to show the bona fides of the marriage, the abuse in the marriage, and that you're a person of good moral character, that you're paying taxes, no arrests, things like that. The bona fides of the marriage are proven by the same as an actual marriage application. Joint documents, affidavits, etc. The abuse has to be documented as well. However, very often it is not possible to document abuse, especially if it's emotional abuse. If the abuse is not physical, if the person is afraid to go, the immigrant is afraid to go to the police, is afraid to go to the hospital because they're constantly being threatened with deportation by their U.S. citizen spouse. In that situation, we have to make sure that your affidavit is very detailed, that it describes exact instances of the abuse, times, dates, what was said, etc. These are very difficult things to remember, but it's better to remember them in the confines of your attorney's office or your home than having to go to an interview afterwards and have to prove all of this again. If you are called in for an interview, it is so important to have an attorney go with you. This is not an interview you want to go on alone. This is not a quick thing. You might be asked to answer questions, and it's important that an advocate is there on your behalf to make sure you're not being asked questions that are inappropriate, to make sure the officer's behaving properly, to make sure that nothing out of the ordinary is happening at these interviews. So even if you filed the application alone but are now called in for an interview, it would be great if you sought help from an immigration attorney and ask them to go with you to make sure that everything's okay, to keep a record in case there needs to be an appeal, or motions to reopen, or supervisor attention brought to any of these issues.